My name is Kayla E. I'm originally from Johnston, Rhode Island, and now I live in Richmond, Rhode Island with my husband, 3 children, dog, and cat.
Wow. And so you went to URI Pharmacy, right?
I did. I graduated in 2011.
Okay. And why did you choose to attend URI for their pharmacy program?
Well, being a Rhode Islander, I certainly wanted to look at my state university. I had heard that pharmacy was a good career for a woman, especially someone who wanted to start a family someday. So I had heard, good things about the career for women, and that's certainly been true for myself. And URI had a stellar program, a great reputation. And I also like, the fact that you could get your doctorate in 6 years. That's pretty efficient in my mind.
Yep, that was the main reason I came here as well. The 0 to 6, like, why not save 2 extra years? They just so easy. Yeah, of course. So tell us about your journey after URI and sort of what steps you took to get to where you are right now.
Yeah, great question. So after graduating from URI, I completed 2 years of residency at the VA in Connecticut, my second year specializing in geriatrics. I always enjoyed geriatrics while I was at the university, and I liked how it still left my career open. Like there was inpatient and outpatient opportunities. Geriatric patients, acquired a lot of disease states, so you were still really exposed to a lot of different areas, even within that specialty in itself. And I always enjoyed working with older adults. My own grandparents were a big influence on my life, and so I really appreciated the patient care aspect of that population. After my residency, I thought I'd always go into hospital, believe it or not. That's sort of the path I thought I was on. But I had the opportunity after my residency program to apply for a position at CVS Health, at the time CVS Caremark. They had a role in their product development team for the retail side. And I thought to myself, well, I have this hospital background. What am I going to do, on a retail product development team? I have never really spent time in community pharmacy. But at the time, their team was looking at innovative ways to connect the community pharmacy with the health hospitals and health systems. Things like readmission reduction and patient-centered medical home integration. What more? How can we elevate the role of the community pharmacist and help support the needs of health systems? So when I heard about that position, I said, well, that sounds really neat. And it sounds like it can combine the skills I've learned in my residency and in my career, in my degree, and really combine it with what the company was trying to do. So I took the position, not really knowing what product development meant, but realized that it was really a job that fit my skill set. It was, innovative and creative. It involved a lot of problem solving, and it also, allowed me to work with an interdisciplinary team, but a different interdisciplinary team than you work with in the health system. So instead of nurses and physicians and respiratory therapists and physical therapists, I was working with business analysts and lawyers and, my MBA leadership teams. And, all together we were, and I was sort of the clinical voice on the team. And altogether, we were kind of coming up with the best solution. So it was similar to a healthcare interdisciplinary team, but more in the business space. The other thing I always enjoyed doing, even throughout, my time at URI and in residency, was teaching and mentoring others. And URI gave me a lot of opportunity to flex that skill. And so I always wanted to be involved in mentorship and teaching. And so after a few years at the retail product development team, I took a position actually at URI, at my alma mater, in the experiential education department, and got to practice that and really hone that skill of teaching and mentorship in that role, and spent about 2.5 years there. And then found when I was mentoring students that I'd always tell them, if there's an opportunity in specialty, you should take it. When I was in experiential education going out to pharmacies in New England, every pharmacy manager was telling me specialty is, growing, specialty is our problem, specialty is where, we need help, we need solutions. And so as I found myself telling my students I was mentoring, hey, if you see a specialty opportunity, you should take it. You should really look into this. I myself got a call from a mentor of mine from my previous position at CVS, telling me that she had an opportunity for me in the specialty product development team back at CVS. And so had to kind of take my own advice there and jump back into the product development world, but now on the specialty side of the organization. And the position, and I'm in that position now, is as a clinical manager of specialty innovation. So we are the product development team for the specialty side of the organization. It falls under the PBM, so it's technically also in managed care. And through that role, I also get to do the teaching and mentorship because I wear another hat as the Residency Program Director for 2 PGY1 managed care positions on our team. So I've been there now for 3 years, or in this role for 3 years, doing both the product development and the teaching and mentorship. I kind of finally figured out how to combine both my passions.
Wow, that's actually really interesting because, you know, we were always told that there are so many options after graduation, but then you don't really see sort of the non-traditional path. You just see hospital or retail, and then, you know, you see ambulatory and blah, blah, blah. But so that's actually really interesting how you got into all of that. And so you said you've been doing that for 3 years, right? So how did you combine, find the balance between the residency program director and then the product innovator?
Yeah, I mean, it's a constant balance, I think, even to this day. But really, I think for me, it was about knowing what my skills were, knowing what I did best. And some of that takes time to figure out, right? There were certain elements of the experiences that I got as a student and then as a resident, and then even early in my career that, you know, as you gain those experiences and you reflect on them and you can say, oh, you know, I'm really good at this and I enjoy it. You know, for me, I was always seeking a position that combined all of my skills, but then also things that I enjoyed doing. So for me, it's been a little bit of a winding road, even though I'm still pretty early in my career. I graduated 10 years ago now, but I've already gotten to wear so many hats. And for me, a job like this one, where I get to do a lot of different things, is what really inspires me.
Yeah, of course. And so for me, like product development would just mean like, you know, looking up at what the problems are and how can you sort of find solutions to that. But I feel like you know sort of a broader side of that information. So if you could just elaborate more on what exactly your role is in product development.
Absolutely. Yeah. So product development, you know, we also sometimes call ourselves the innovation team. Some people haven't heard of the term, but we are the innovators of the company. Even though it's an innovative company, so really there's innovation happening everywhere. Our job is to, you know, understand the problems that our customers, our clients, our patients have and help develop solutions to them and then test those solutions. Sometimes when you're innovating, things don't always work. So it's okay to test some things and they fail and then you try something new. And then sometimes you test things and they're successful and you have to, you know, come up with a full scale plan to roll it out. So it's very much testing and learning, you know, research and development, but really innovation is the word that comes to mind. If you have that innovative mindset, if you like, you know, I tell people I get to like create in white space, or, you know, somebody hands me maybe a draft and I get to like sketch it and erase things and color it in. And so I was never the type of pharmacist that like, okay, just tell me 1 through 10 what I need to do and I'm going to go down the line and do it. I would get to number 2 and say, and I'd find myself saying, well, I think I have a better way of doing this, or I think I have a more efficient way of doing this. And I'd always kind of find myself getting involved in side projects, whether I was on rotation or, you know, even in residency, you know, we'd have a process at the hospital and I'd be like, how did we get this process? I want to update this process or change how it's done. And so I didn't know it at the time. But now I kind of tell students, if you're the type of student that you're like, I don't quite fit the mold and I always have these new ideas, you know, think about, you know, a more innovative, or, you know, you want to seek out positions and opportunities that allow you to use those, that creativity to change how things are being done. And that's what brings me a lot of joy in my job, is I get to influence how a new program is developed, how patient care is done by the pharmacists across our organization. That brings me a lot of pride that I can influence that at that level, and that my ideas are being heard and tested in a team environment.
And I think that's like the creative side of you that's like coming out, and you are allowed, the flexibility to do that in your job, because in most other jobs, it would be like, oh, this is first line treatment and second line treatment, and you just have to, again, go down the path. And so I think that's kind of cool that like your inputs are actually taken into consideration, and you can see something happening that just came out of your own brain. So that's kind of cool. So tell us about a day in your life. So you wake up, you go to work. What's the first thing you're doing?
Yeah, so I'm looking at my day, because my day changes sometimes minute by minute, because we're innovating, right? It's not predictable sometimes. So there's time, no day for me is the same, I guess, is the first thing to know. But a typical day for me would be looking at my calendar. I probably have back-to-back meetings all day long, but maybe I've carved out some time for me to do some independent work. We call it balcony time. We're not sitting on a balcony, but it's that idea of like, I need time in my own head to think through and be creative and come up with solutions to these problems, or work on a specific project. Then I may have team meetings where I'm working, with other team members to either review my independent work or review their independent work. And we're kind of using that collaborative approach to get to an even better solution, sharing ideas. And then really, executing those projects, whether it be through like IT type projects or working with operations, depending on who my other stakeholders are, my leadership, sharing with them my plans to get their buy-in and feedback, or, collecting the results. So maybe we've executed on something and now I'm looking through and saying, were we successful? What needs to change? And so I might be like looking at data or reports, or I might be building reports to be able to understand how successful our team has been. And so it's kind of a mix of independent time, teamwork time, like rolling up your sleeves and getting it done, and then like presentations, whether it be to stakeholders or other teams. And so it's really a mixed bag. And then my other hat, my residency hat, I may be having one-on-one with my current residents. I might be meeting with our whole residency accreditation team on program level or accreditation level activities, or I might be doing recruitment for the next class of residents. So the residency is always something else kind of running in the background that adds a little more mix to my day.
That seems like that's a pretty loaded, busy day.
It's crazy.
So do you think, yeah, really, I'm like overwhelmed just thinking about it. So do you think you needed any particular like experiences or credentials to sort of be in this role? Like, why do you think you are the perfect person for this?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And I don't think there's ever, it's never like black and white. I think there's people in roles like myself who did not do residencies or don't have certain certifications. But for me personally, and especially, coming up through my career at the time that I did, I always felt like if there was an opportunity to differentiate myself, I should take that opportunity. So for me, doing a residency allowed me to differentiate myself and then made me eligible for, some of the positions that I spoke of earlier. At the same time, I have a board certification in geriatrics pharmacy. That was a way to differentiate myself, even though it wasn't directly related to my current role. It's something that helps to differentiate me, from whoever else might be, applying for my role. And then certainly having those things help me to be qualified to be a residency director. So again, it was a decision I made 10 years ago that's having a positive influence on my career now. And so I would encourage students to think about those things, like when there's opportunities to, gain extra, feathers for your cap, especially if it's, 1 or 2 years of time for a career worth of value, I think you should really look. Even, another good example more recently is when my class was in school, I think the immunization certificate was optional. It was right on the cusp when they included it in the curriculum automatically. And so I had to come in, I think, over the summer for a day to get my immunization certification. And then I didn't use it in any of my jobs, right? Product development, I wasn't patient facing. In the academia, I wasn't patient facing. And then 10 years later, here we go, in the midst of a pandemic, I was able to pull that feather, dust it off and help contribute to my local community as an immunizer. So that's kind of this random example of something that I did 10 years ago that's coming forth to benefit me to be able to help the local community during a pandemic. So again, that was, one day that I had to come in extra in the summer back. It might have even been more than 10 years ago now, because that was before I graduated. So yeah, if there's an opportunity to do a little extra, it can have big impact down the road.
Yeah, that's probably why they made it mandatory, because you never know when it'll come into play. Yeah. So that's good advice. Take any opportunity that comes your way. Do you have any other advice for students, especially the ones who are looking to sort of go into specialty or product development roles, things like that?
Yeah, so experience, whether it's through APPEs, internships, use your summers to your advantage, especially younger in your career. Really seek out, I know you have a lot of great organizations at the university. I was always, involved in various things. So really getting that experience is so valuable. Mentorship can be really helpful too. Look to your faculty member that you connect with. I had great mentors that are still to this day mentors to me in my career, personally and professionally. And then don't be afraid to use alumni too. I know alumni come through and do talks to students in various avenues. If you have somebody who really you connect with, I'm sure they'd be happy to mentor you and be a resource, because that's how you kind of learn what you like and don't like, what you're good at and not good at, is when you have those people that you can turn to and ask for that honest, real feedback and advice. If I had decision points in my career that I had to make, I had mentors at the university that would be the first one I'd call. My residency program, same thing. I have mentors from that experience that I can lean on when there's these really pivotal points in your life and in your career. I think I even have asked mentors of mine about when I was considering going from 2 children to 3 children, I'm like, what's your advice from a professional standpoint versus, people in my life from a personal standpoint. So it's really valuable to have those people. And then specifically for specialty and managed care, they're both kind of niche environments. So certainly, a managed care residency program would be helpful if you're looking to go into managed care, or, a specialty focused residency, but APPE is the same thing. And then the earlier you can start, the better. So the earlier you can identify what you're interested in, the earlier you can get those experiences, then the more experiences you have to go into, being qualified for whatever it is you're going for, whether that's an internship or residency or a position.
Yeah, I have my hospital IPPE this summer, so I'm really looking forward to that, because I feel like that's something I might want to do, go down the clinical path. But yeah, we'll see what happens. And yeah, I agree with the mentors thing. I'm the RAM, which is the resident academic mentor for our first year students. And every time some of them, yeah, if someone of them reaches out to me and asks what classes do I take, or do you have any advice on what kind of research should I do? And every time I see those emails, it just makes me so happy that they're relying on me to give them advice. Yeah, of course. We all need those people who can help us make choices, even though we sometimes know what we want, but that second reassurance is what we need. Yeah.
Very valuable. Absolutely.
Yeah. So how has your role sort of evolved since you started working there to what it's like now? Have you seen any changes, or do you think it has some scope to evolve in the future?
Absolutely. Specialty is such a growing area, Specialty spend is growing year over year. So really helping our clients manage that is a big part of what our team does. So yeah, our team has grown. My responsibility has grown over time. So, kind of from managing one project to multiple projects. When I first started, I was like a mentor and preceptor for our program, and now I'm the residency director. So I have been, taking on more responsibility and gaining more leadership opportunities within my role. And our team changes. I mean, being on the innovation team, we have to be at the tip of the spear for what's happening in the company. So our work is always changing. That's part of what I love about innovation is no year is the same. Even within a year, sometimes my projects can change. Like all of a sudden something new is a priority. We have to put on something on hold and turn our attention to, the buzzword or the hot topic of the month. So it's exciting and definitely rapidly evolving as just the specialty field is.
So I feel like what we have the most in common is that we both went to URI pharmacy, and most of the people who will be watching this video are in pharmacy school at URI. And so how do you feel like the College of Pharmacy at URI sort of helped prepare you for where you are today?
Yeah, that's a great question. It kind of circles back to what I think I've mentioned a few times now, is just like that experience and exposure. And it also ties into the mentorship. Like I had mentors that helped give me opportunities to do more teaching than like the average student and be involved as a mentor to other students because they recognized in me, or I expressed to them my interest in teaching and working with younger students. So I think, the opportunity that you mentioned, like the RAM, that wasn't a thing when I was in school. So when Dr. Estes said you were the RAM, I thought you were like actually the Ram at the games or something, the mascot. But that's awesome. Like what a great experience at a young in college stage to be a mentor to someone else, right? And to gain those leadership skills. And you mentioned you're part of the leadership program. It's like how do you, URI's ability to kind of tie all these co-curricular, extracurricular opportunities together to let students carve their own unique paths and become, differentiated by the end. I think URI does a great job at that. And I certainly feel like not only were those opportunities given to me, I tried to take advantage of them, getting involved in the extra organizations, finding the mentors to help create new opportunities. I know a lot of students get involved with research projects and presenting posters with faculty members, and those opportunities really are what set you apart and really helped me, I think, to navigate some of that discovery, the self-discovery of like, what do you like? What do you not like? What are you good at? What do you need some work in? You mentioned your IPI for hospital coming up. So I remember, one of my first, I had an experience in a community pharmacy, and then I had experience in a hospital pharmacy, and being in the hospital pharmacy, like lights were going off everywhere. I'm like, I love this. It's exciting. Every day is different. The hospital recognized in me the desire to kind of change policies and protocols. So they got me involved in those extra projects so that I could flex those muscles of like, well, what would it take to change it? And how do you think through change management? And then how do you implement that? And then how do you monitor that change to make sure you were successful? And I didn't know it at the time, but that's like mini product development, right? In a hospital setting. So yeah, I'd say the experience and the mentorship is two things that I valued so much from my experience at URI as a student. One other thought that I just had is, you think about traditional pharmacy paths, and even within those traditional pharmacy paths, there's opportunities to explore some of the other more niche pathways. Like you mentioned, people who want to get into specialty. There may not be a specialty appy for everyone, but when you're on your hospital rotation or when you're in your community rotation, why don't you choose patients that have specialty drugs instead of saying like, oh, like I didn't learn about that, it's not diabetes, hypertension, hyperlipidemia, so I'm going to kind of focus on what I know. Dive in and dig into those specialty cases and learn about them, because that's specialty right there, right? And managed care, like, oh, like how, when you're in your community pharmacy, how is this, adjudication happening, and what's the technology behind it, and what are all these different plans mean, and PBMs, and what makes them different, and why is it covered for one person, not the other? It's really just curiosity, right? Creativity and curiosity, and asking questions, digging deeper. You can get aspects of these niche areas, even in a traditional pathway, to help expand your own knowledge, and expand your own experience.